Right, Bryan, Mirabella, welcome to Empower Network TV.
Thank you, Amos. Nice to be here. Thank you.
This is going to be fun. So, this whole thing about are you breathing properly? When you just told me that, I was like, what? So, before we jump into your story, can you give us the overarching, please? What is some information about breathing, like say the average person like me would definitely not know? What's some stats?
The main one is that we're supposed to breathe through our nose 100% of the time, unless we're talking or eating. And most people exercise with their mouth open. Most people sleep with their mouth open. And most people in their day-to-day life, they walk around with their mouth open. They don't even realize it. And your mouth is an emergency breathing system, and it doesn't offer any benefits whatsoever. Only the nose does that because it has over 30 functions. The mouth is an emergency system. You're only supposed to breathe through it if you can't breathe through your nose.
Hang on, you're not supposed to sleep, eat, you're not supposed to do anything with your mouth open or walk around with your mouth. Okay, so why? Let's get into that.
Because God breathed life into man's nose, not into his mouth. And the nose has 30 functions in relation to breathing, and the mouth has 0. It's just an emergency system.
Okay, 30 functions. Let's get into those 30 functions because you got me all percolated now.
Okay, well, it heats and humidifies the air as it comes in because it produces this miracle gas. So in 1992, they finally started to study nitric oxide, and they found out that it was a miracle gas, that our body actually produces it. And this miracle gas brings more oxygen into the lungs deeper. It creates more pulmonary, that's the veins and arteries that supply the lungs. It creates more pulmonary blood flow. And then it actually brings more oxygen to the little tiny alveoli that are in your lungs. And then when it brings the oxygen in, it also allows carbon dioxide, not waste, but excess, to get out. And then in 1998, 3 scientists won the Nobel Prize for nitric oxide. So they found that it's antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral. So that means your nose does everything it's supposed to do. And if you put a face diaper on your face, you're actually really, really hurting yourself.
Okay, so let's go. I don't want to jump down the face diaper thing too hard right now, but I understand what you're saying. So because I used to be a gasper, like literally I'm a singer and I would breathe. I didn't know. I've only started consciously doing this the last few months because I got tired of gasping on videos. Like in between stuff, I'd be like, like then you watch professional speakers and they all do that. Okay, so how did you find this out? What's the path that led you there?
About 7 years ago, I started finding out about Wim Hof because I watched a Vice documentary on him. And I did the technique for about a year. And now this is unbeknownst to me. I jumped into a technique because everyone was doing it. But it didn't mean that it was good for me. I just jumped into it. So I forgot to put that on silent.
All good.
So it's on.
Thanks for reminding me. I should do mine too now.
So I did it for a year, and it happened to be the coldest January in New York City history, where the average temperature was like 22 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was able to go out in the snow in shorts. That's it, just shorts, in 11-degree temperature it was 8 degrees with an 11-degree wind chill. And I was superhuman. However, I was getting frostbite in my fingers and my hands because I had been engaging in hyperventilation, and it was numbing my nervous system because it creates a fight or flight response when you breathe fast and hard. So then it wasn't working for me. I was feeling worse. So I stopped doing it. And then as fate would have it, now that breathing was in my consciousness, I found this, I went to this movement seminar. And on day 3, it was a 4-day seminar. On day 3, the head of the seminar said, okay, we're going to bring out this doctor of cranial physiology, and she's going to talk to us about breathing. And I went, oh, man. I was like, come on, I don't want to hear this. I came here to learn movement. I was so depressed, but I also realized that the reaction inside of me was a fight or flight reaction. I don't have over the top reactions. I'm always seeing things in neutral. I have an ability to think very clearly and not get affected by anything in my life. That's a long story. So she started speaking, and then I was like, oh, wait, that's me. And I was like, oh, I do that. Oh, I feel that way. And then I was like, oh my God, I must have a breathing problem. And then luckily she's from Glendale, Arizona. So she was staying in New York City for the week, and she was just so happening to do a certification course. So I was like, I'm taking it. 3 days. And I signed up, and it was so far over my head because they were talking about the 12 cranial nerves, which run the whole show, because you are an electromagnetic being having a visceral experience in this flesh suit. But everything is driven by the sun and the electromagnetic force field of the earth, which we will move into in the new age. We won't be living in the 3D matrix. So I started to learn everything I could about breathing. And then I did the Buteyko method. So I took all the courses for the Buteyko method. Was created in the 1950s by Konstantin Buteyko, who was behind the Iron Curtain in Russia. The only reason people don't know about him here is because we're taught that anything Russian is bad. But in the East, they believe in it very, very strongly. And they focus, especially in Russia, they know how to breathe. That's why COVID barely touched Russia, because people know what to do when there's a respiratory illness around. So I started diving down the rabbit hole, and it turned out that I was pretty much breathing as poorly as you can because I had been an athlete my whole life. And so I started this at around 48. I'm 54 now. But at 46, I was told by a high-level acupuncturist, just from listening to my pulse and looking at my tongue, she said, within the first 10 minutes, she said, guys like you have a heart attack in your 60s and die. And I was like, what? And I looked at myself and I'm like, what? I'm in fantastic shape. But I didn't know about my organs. I wasn't, as a personal trainer, we're not really taught the innards, right? We're always looking at the outside part. So then I really started to dive into the physiology of respiration. And it turned out that I was pretty much killing myself with my breathing habits because I had developed bad breathing habits. Number one, it started in the womb. I was born in 1969 in bankrupt New York City, living in the Bronx. And my mom was a smoker. She started smoking when she was 12. She had me at 25. So all of the toxins that my mom had in her body, she gave to her little child. And she was a generational smoker. So her mom smoked all through pregnancy. So I inherited toxicity from my grandma and my mom because you mainly get your lymphatic system from your mother and not your father. So I was born dirty. And every child is if they're born to someone who smokes to a degree. So I was set up for failure right from the beginning. And for the first 16 years of my life, I'll never forget, I was sick all the time. My mom was always taking me to the pediatrician. So when I was 16, she took me there. And the first thing he said was, Gail, Bryan's 16 now, he needs a real doctor. So I was looking through my chart and I was counting how many times I've been there. And it was 106 times. And I was like, I'm 16. I've been to the doctor 106 times. And how many times do you think I got antibiotics and pills? And it destroyed my gut microbiome because nothing they give you in pill form can ever help your body more than your body can help itself. That's why you heal. If you break a bone and you set it, the bone heals. If you get sick or the flu, you get better. Sickness is heart disease, cancer, diabetes, the things that can't be reversed, even though your body was trying to reverse it for such a long time before you were diagnosed with this sickness. So I lived with her till I was 18, and I was breathing in camel smoke my whole life. And I was also, we were poor. She was on welfare, so I was eating nothing but processed foods. I thought Twinkies were really good for me. and Hostess cupcakes. And those are the kinds of things I was eating. I was eating things like sizzle steaks, which is like fake meat even back then. And, you know, those things don't seem to hurt you in the short term. But then as you grow older, you wonder why a chronic degenerative disease pops up. And it's because of the lifetime of creating daily sins that has nothing to do with religion. I mean, I would consider a sin like, you know, drinking alcohol, not a sin in that, but against my body, against my physiology, because it doesn't belong in my body. So I was committing these daily sins for most of my life. And then at 46, I was told that my organs were failing, even though if you went to a doctor, they wouldn't be able to tell you that. So I immediately said, all right, I already healed my discs. 5 years before that, I had 2 herniated discs and I healed my discs. Because I'm like, if a starfish can regrow a leg and you could take out half of a person's liver, even 3/4 of it, and the liver grows back, I'm like, everything grows back. Not one organ grows back, everything. So now I've been on this journey of self-healing and I became a fruitarian. So I pretty much 95% of my life, I'm eating raw foods and it's mostly fruit. It's hydrating fruits that don't create an insulin response in the body because that kind of sugar is not bad for you. Mother's milk, the constituents of mother's milk, all you have to do is go on PubMed, type in mother's milk, and then you'll see that it's 2.5% protein. So everyone's like, oh, you need a lot of protein. Well, you're reared on barely any, 4% fat and 9% carbohydrate, and the rest is water. So you're reared on sugar water. Only in the first 1 to 3 days does mom have colostrum coming out of her nipple. And then after that, it switches to breast milk. And some kids stay on breast milk for 2 years. So they're reared, their brain is grown on sugar. And it was designed to be plucked off the tree and eaten, or if it falls to the ground when it's ripe. And they're beautiful colors and they taste great. There's no such thing as bad fruit, this bad sugar. There is, if a person is really toxic, then you have to be careful. There's a transition that needs to happen. So you can't just switch to just eating fruit because you could fall ill, but that's a long discussion and it has to do with lymph. So I went on fruit for a year because I started following Dr. Sebi and Dr. Morse. And within a year, my acupuncturist, I had a new one because the first one said, listen to me, she said, she didn't think I could heal. And I said, no, I've already healed herniated discs. I'm back to being able to, I'm a wrestler. And when you wrestle, you have to back bridge. And I was already back to taking an 80-pound throw dummy and throwing it over my head like nothing happened. My discs are fine. And did I go to the doctor to find that out? No. That's another long story on how I healed. We don't have time for that. So I went on this diet and my acupuncturist, who's a Qigong master, he's 65. He's been doing acupuncture since he's 13. And he was one of the first doctors to come out of the Cultural Revolution when they opened up the country. And he was a surgeon. So he's got nothing but, medical degrees and acupuncture knowledge. And he said to me, I don't think you should do this. I said, why? He said, because you need protein. I said, Dr. Meng, I don't eat protein. I said, I take marine phytoplankton because that is all the building blocks of life. It has all of the essential amino acids and all of the amino acids. And it's got almost all the minerals. So the minerals are the glue that keep the structure of the DNA together, the amino acids. And then the amino acids are the chain, the monomers, the building blocks of a protein. So you don't eat protein to build protein. If you eat protein, you have to break it down. So I don't do that. I cut out the middleman like the largest land animals do. They don't eat protein. They eat plants. So
hang on a second. When we eat protein, we have to break it down to use it. You're saying that there's a quicker way to get it?
Yeah.
Can you just put that in like grade 5 language for me?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Well, all proteins are made up of amino acids.
I've heard this. Okay.
So when you eat a protein, the body has to make insulin to break it down. And a protein is acids, right? It's made up of ribonucleic acids. So acids don't belong in your body. They corrode your system. So I take marine phytoplankton, which has all the essential fats. So when David Attenborough came out with his second iteration of Planet Earth, they called it Our Planet. It was like 10 years apart. And in episode number 6, everybody could go look at this. The first 30 minutes of the episode is all about how marine phytoplankton is actually the most important organism on the planet. It gives us more of the oxygen, like 10 times more oxygen than the forests. It comes from the ocean. And they also detoxify the ocean. And our plasma, our blood plasma, is almost identical to seawater. So I take this organism that was created by light, sound, vibration, and of course, God. It has everything in it because everything we see, except for buildings, but anything lively came from marine phytoplankton. It's 4 billion years old. So it's got all the essential fats. So I don't need to eat fish. I don't need to take fish oils. And I used to take 60 pills a day. I used to take everything because I've always been on the health journey, but now it's gotten even more exponential where I just put in very little in my body. So it's got all the essential fats, all of the amino acids. So I'm always making a perfect protein, always. And if you saw my body, you would say like, holy, what? You don't eat protein? I mean, I'm very muscular because I take this organism. And then it has almost all of the vitamins, it's got chlorophyll in it. So I'm basically eating light, biophotons. And I'm a light being. So I'm filling my body with light. And when I eat fruits, I'm hydrating myself and I'm getting biophotons. So a year into the diet, my acupuncturist said, you know, and he was telling me this the whole time because I go every week. And he said, you know, remember I told you you shouldn't do this diet. He said, well, I was wrong because what you've done with your body is nothing short of remarkable. I've never witnessed anything like it in 50 years of doing acupuncture. And now he tells me my organs are in such good shape that I'm getting younger. Now, I might not get physically looking younger, but I'm certainly not going to age. I'm going to age very, very slowly because I'm not putting anything in my body. And what I do put in my body is the right amount of biophotons, structured water, and macronutrients.
Wow. So we started with breathing properly, and now we're on to all sorts of. So, but marine plankton,
phytoplankton.
Sorry,
phytoplankton.
Marine phytoplankton. Where do you pick that up at?
Well, I get mine from a company called ascendedhealth.com because they use scalar wave technology, but it's on the expensive side because it's like the Rolls Royce of phytoplankton, but you can get organic phytoplankton pretty much anywhere and for cheap. So if people are on a budget, they can get it for cheap. Just make sure you find out where it's sourced.
Okay, so after I do a workout, I thought I need to take a bunch of protein, like, at least 30 grams of protein. And even if it's vegetable protein sometimes, or plant-based protein, I should say.
Can I show you for a second?
Here we go. This is the first time on ENTV that someone's derobing.
I'm pretty muscular, right? And I don't eat any protein. So.
Okay, so your body is able to rebuild do you do cardio, or are you lifting weights, resistance training?
Another great question. So as a personal trainer my whole life, I used to lift weights, but that's a linear expression. Let's just say a bench press. So I don't do anything linear because life is not linear. Movement has, as soon as you take a step or movement, you have to side bend and rotate. So I do rotational training with submaximal loads. So I swing things. And of course, as I move with progressive loads, I might not get big because I'm not looking for hypertrophy, but I want to be able to be fast and strong at the same time. So I don't do any linear lifting. And my workouts don't last more than 30 minutes. And I don't allow myself to get out of breath during a workout, which is the most important thing. And I train world-class athletes, like the top of the top. And I also train everybody else, but some of my athletes are the best in the world.
Okay, I gotta ask why. So you're saying when you're working out, you should not be out of breath. Hang on, what?
Yeah, well, okay, let's think of a cheetah and an antelope in a chase. So when the cheetah is chasing the antelope, number one, both of their mouths are closed.
I've seen this. Yep.
That's it. End of story. They're in an all-out chase and their mouths are closed. End of story. Now, when the chase ends, if the antelope's lucky enough to get away, the cheetah stops, it's standing, and now its mouth opens. And it pants to remove the excess carbon dioxide, the lactic acid that it built up during this anaerobic event. And then it sits down, it's still panting. And then all of a sudden, the mouth closes. Next thing you know, the cheetah lies down. So one set, think about it, one set, and the cheetah needs 30 minutes to recover because that's the average chase. I pay attention to how animals breathe in the wild. So here we are in the gym and we're like, okay, I just did a set. I'm gonna do another one. So you're holding your breath on the inhale, which is hypertension. You're squeezing everything. And every time you need to breathe, you go. So you're actually, I'm already getting dizzy. You're actually putting yourself into a fight or flight hyperventilation response when you're in the gym. And that's only because no one ever taught us how to breathe. And I didn't do that for 30 years. Now, over the last 6 years, I teach athletes not to train to get out of breath. And we're doing very, very well in this regard. And for everybody. So basically, you have to take about 4 to 6 months to learn to breathe through your nose 100% while you're exercising. And what that means is you have to stop moving when you need to open your mouth, or you have to slow down, because otherwise you're actually creating a negative depletion of your chi energy because you're removing carbon dioxide too much. And carbon dioxide is the signaling molecule that walks into a red blood cell, taps the hemoglobin protein, and hemoglobin holds on to oxygen, and then the oxygen gets released. And that's a physiological law of cellular respiration that was originated in 1904 by quantum Nobel Prize physicist Niels Bohr's father, who was 85. So I'm actually teaching from a physiological law that cannot be debated.
Well, this has just been a fire hose of knowledge. This is fun too. I'm going to go get me some marine phytoplankton because that just sounds like that's good stuff.
Immediately.
Are they in vegetable pills? Are they in just stirred in water?
I would not get it in a vegetable pill because I don't know what that pill, that coating is. So I would only take it in powdered form. And then what I do is I just put water in my mouth. I take my scooper, I dump it in, I swish it around, and I swallow it.
Okay.
And I've been on it for almost 8 years.
Wow. And you seriously don't take protein? How do your muscles recover? Like, I just did my workout here and my muscles are aching from the workout out stretched and all that. How does your body rebuild? I'm sorry if this is a rudimentary question. You're blowing my mind here.
Yeah, of course, Amos. I didn't know that until 8 years ago when I started taking them. Because I used to be 170 pounds. I was jacked. I used to squat 600 pounds drug-free. And that also destroyed my spine because anything you put on your back is going to compress your spine. So then I lost, now I'm 142 pounds. But I was 170 when I was like 30 and now I'm 54. So I'm 28 pounds lighter. So now I don't have all that girth on me. I don't have all that excess weight, which allows me to breathe better, which allows me to be less dense, more vibrationally light, so I can receive the light energies and the codes coming in. And, it's one of those things where just because we were taught it doesn't mean it's right.
I know. We could go down some rabbit holes with politics and pharmaceuticals and religion. Everything.
I can go anywhere you want.
It's amazing to me. I've not yet found a box that's right. for me, explore
Don't fit into a box, but don't fit into a box, because what I pride myself on is being a critical thinker. Now, if I'm teaching, let's just say I'm teaching one breathing technique and I've been teaching it for 3 years, and somebody says to me, if you altered this, you'd actually make it better and you might not be doing the correct thing. I would go, you know what? That makes sense. I'm going to try it. And then I would actually go, I have a large breathing community. And I would tell everybody that, okay, I didn't have all the answers. I would never be like, let me keep my ego in check. I'm always willing to learn and to move past what I didn't know so I can bring the greatest information to the public.
Well, I appreciate you being here, Bryan. I'm thankful that Linda Brand invited you. I'll tag Linda in this. She might already have seen this, but this is awesome. I'm going to get me some marine phytoplankton, because why not? And I want to get you on a first date networking event. If you're interested, come out, meet another 12, 15 people. I'll send you, I'll send you a link for that after this.
Nice.
Any last words before we sign off? This is great.
Well, the last words would be, make sure you breathe through your nose all the time. And you have to breathe through your nose when you're sleeping. If you have any type of snoring, you have breathing dysfunction. If you wake up with a dry mouth, that's a sign that you've been mouth breathing while you sleep, and you cannot do that, because you're not getting the deep rest that you need, because you're removing carbon dioxide, which is exactly what you need to hold on to allow oxygen to be liberated. So closure, learn to breathe through the nose. And I teach people how to do that. And I do it. I have a monthly platform. It's called Breathverse. Well, my website is quantumfitness.org. And my Instagram channel is breath_verse. And then I put out tons of free information. And then I do a weekly live webinar. So every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock, I do a 1 hour webinar, and I give away all the free information, and I give away 3 free breathing gifts and a discount to my platform. And then on my platform, I do 3 calls every week. So I teach people every single week, 3 times a week, all year long. And I help people restore their respiration. And when you do that, your whole life thrives, unlike you've never felt before in your life. Because I always say, you don't know how good you don't feel. Even when you think you feel good, you don't know how good you don't feel.
Can you one more time, please tell me again, when I breathe through my nose, what happens in here that creates that thing I need that goes down? Can you say, to help liberate the oxygen?
Yes. Well, when you inhale slowly through the nose, light, meaning you don't make any noise when you breathe in, and it's light. When it's light and slow, it actually increases the amplitude that the diaphragm can move down. And when it moves down and you breathe slow, you pick up this gas called nitric oxide in your paranasal sinuses. And it's the nitric oxide that immediately mixes with the inhaled oxygen, brings more oxygen into your lungs, and allows your body to remove more excess waste. And then it's all about your endogenous, they're called gasotransmitters, carbon dioxide and nitric oxide, and we make them. And those 2 molecules actually heal our tissues, or they help to.
Okay. Well, Bryan Mirabella, thank you for being here. Linda Brand, thanks for inviting Bryan. Bryan, I'll end the broadcast here. This was, I'd take some people in this, and look forward to seeing you on a first date. So we'll end it here, but we'll keep chatting.
All right, cool. Thank you, Amos. And thank you to all your followers and listeners. Thank you so much.